Julius Erving, and this is Cliff Levingston.
Rocked the baby and put it to sleep.
Defensive end Ed Too Tall.
The words "he was my GOAT" make this sound simple. But Julius Erving's 2024 appearance at a celebrity golf event in Bermuda showed why his golf story is much bigger than one quote. Dr. J walked onto the course decades after he last played an NBA game, and people still stopped to watch him. He was not there as a nostalgic guest. He was there instead as a man who has spent almost 40 full years studying golf from the inside. Search online for Julius Erving and top 5 golfers, and the results get messy fast. Some pages mix up his basketball top 5 with golf lists made by other legends. Some pages pull up a college award named after him. Some pages show celebrity names from his own charity tournament. A few even confuse him with completely different retired athletes who have also appeared at celebrity golf events over the years, adding yet another layer of confusion to an already crowded search results page. None of that confusion is really about him. It is about how search results get tangled together. Once you clear that away, a much better story appears. Erving is not just a famous face who once picked up a club. He is a course owner, a tournament host, and a man who learned the game slowly, the hard way, the same way he once learned basketball on outdoor courts as a kid. And if you enjoy stories where one sports legend explains greatness in another game, use the hype feature and give this video some hype as we follow the 5 golfers who earned that level of respect from him. Because when you study the golfers Julius Erving watched, praised, met, and measured against his own idea of greatness, 5 names rise above the rest. The question is not whether he loved golf. The question is which golfers shaped how he sees it. And once you look closely at his decades on the fairway, the answer becomes clear. And it says a lot about the way he judges greatness in any sport, on any surface, under any kind of pressure. Before we get to golf, it helps to understand why anyone should care what Julius Erving thinks about greatness at all. Erving is not a casual fan making guesses. He is one of the most accomplished professional basketball players in history. Across his combined ABA and NBA career, he scored more than 30,000 points. Add up his time with the New York Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers, and you get 30,026 career points. He won 3 professional championships. He earned 4 league Most Valuable Player awards. He reached the postseason in 16 straight years, which is an incredible run of consistency in a sport where careers rise and fall quickly. Across his ABA and NBA seasons combined, he played 1,245 professional games. Those are not just numbers on a page. They represent pressure faced night after night, year after year, in front of crowds who expected him to deliver every single time. Erving changed the way basketball looked. Before him, the game was mostly played on the ground. He brought it above the rim. He turned dunks into art and turned athletic risk into a signature style that fans had never seen before. A style that made highlight reels feel like a brand new kind of entertainment altogether. That kind of change does not happen by accident. It takes years of discipline, physical innovation, and mental toughness. It also takes the ability to handle fame without losing focus, something Erving managed for almost 2 decades at the highest level of his sport. When a man like that studies another game, he is not looking at flashy shots or highlight reels. He is looking at pressure, at longevity, at leadership, and at how an athlete carries themselves when everyone is watching. He understands what it costs to stay excellent for a long time because he lived that cost himself. Think about what it actually takes to stay at the top of a professional sport for 16 straight seasons. It takes physical discipline that most people never have to test. It takes the mental strength to keep performing, even when your body starts to feel the wear of thousands of games. It takes leadership, because teammates and coaches look to a player like that for direction when things get difficult. It takes the ability to handle constant attention, since a star of Erving's level could never simply blend into a crowd. And it takes an understanding of what championship expectations feel like. The pressure that builds every single time a season starts, and fans expect another deep playoff run. Erving carried all of that weight for the better part of 2 decades, and he came out the other side with his reputation not just intact, but stronger than when he started. That combination of pressure, fame, physical innovation, mental discipline, and cultural impact is rare in any sport. It shaped the way he later looked at other elite competitors, no matter what game they played. So when Erving looks at golf, and at the men who dominated it, he brings a trained eye. He is not simply naming famous people he has heard of. He is comparing their journeys to his own and asking which ones remind him of what real greatness feels like from the inside. That is the lens through which this entire story makes sense, and it is the reason his opinion on golf carries far more weight than a typical celebrity guess. Julius Erving retired from professional basketball in 1987 after 16 seasons with the Philadelphia 76ers. He grew up playing on the outdoor courts of Roosevelt, New York, before starring at the University of Massachusetts, and then becoming a true legend in both the ABA and the NBA leagues. When his playing days ended, he did not simply disappear into retirement. He turned his attention to golf, and he approached it the same way he approached basketball, with patience, curiosity, and a willingness to put in the work. In the late 1980s, Erving started building golf friendships with business executives and fellow athletes. He kept a demanding schedule, sometimes teeing off as early as 5:30 in the morning and playing until it was almost too dark to see the ball, all so he could fit rounds around a busy travel calendar. He learned to putt on what golfers call the pro side, which means the high side of a breaking putt, a small detail that shows how seriously he studied the game rather than just enjoying it casually. Over time, his handicap improved. He took the same coordination that made him a star on the basketball court and applied it to his swing, his putting strategy, and his understanding of how to manage a course. Golf became more than a hobby. It became a second craft that he worked to master, one shot and one round at a time, for the rest of his life. Erving's connection to golf eventually grew into something bigger than personal play. He became the owner of Heritage Golf Links in Tucker, Georgia, a course that was originally known as Celebrity Golf Club International. Owning that course made him one of the most notable black owners of a public golf facility in the country. He used that position to encourage more people from minority communities to take up the sport, and he supported youth programs and grassroots golf activity along the way. He also became known for the Julius Erving Golf Classic, an annual charity event that raised money for organizations such as the Salvation Army and Grab a Ball and Play. Over the years, the event grew into a respected fixture on the celebrity golf calendar, drawing consistent support from sponsors and repeat attendance from athletes who valued both the competition and the cause behind it. The tournament brought together major sports personalities at venues including Aronimink Golf Club, the Ace Club, St. David's Golf Club, and the Atlantic City Country Club. Winners over the years included Joe Carter, Marcus Allen, John Starks, Winky Wright, and Gerald Henderson Sr. Erving also traveled internationally for golf, including appearances at Bermuda's Black Golfers Week and celebrity events at Port Royal Golf Course and Tucker's Point Golf Club, playing alongside stars like Bo Jackson, Byron Scott, Spud Webb, and Terrell Owens. Erving's move into golf also placed him inside a wider circle of retired superstar athletes who treated the sport as more than a pastime. Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, Lawrence Taylor, Marcus Allen, and John Smoltz were all part of this same world. A community of former champions who found a new kind of competition on the golf course once their original sports careers ended. Within that community, Erving's own charity classic became a gathering point, a place where retired athletes built friendships while also learning to respect just how difficult professional golf truly is. Through years of pro-am rounds alongside actual touring professionals, Erving watched up close how elite golfers handled adversity, tricky wind conditions, brutal course setups, and the kind of high-pressure putts that separate champions from everyone else on the leaderboard. He saw how the best players recovered mentally after a bad shot, instead of letting it ruin their entire round. All of this proves something important. Julius Erving did not just play a few rounds of golf for fun after basketball. He studied the sport for decades, built a business around it, hosted competitions, and used his name to open doors for others. That long hands-on relationship with golf is exactly why his perspective on the sport's greatest champions carries real weight, rather than being just another famous name offering a quick opinion. So how did we arrive at 5 names for this list? There is no single recorded interview where Julius Erving sat down and read off an official ranking from 5 to 1. What exists instead is decades of commentary, attendance at golf events, cross-sport comparisons, and his own remarks about the traits that define greatness. Taking all of that together, 5 golfers stand out clearly as central to his view of the sport, in reverse order, to build the countdown properly. They are Gary Player at number 5, Lee Trevino at number 4, Arnold Palmer at number 3, Jack Nicklaus at number 2, and Tiger Woods at number 1. Each of these men represents a trait that connects directly back to Erving's own career. Gary Player stands for fitness, longevity, and global reach. Lee Trevino stands for self-made skill, precision, and a real connection with fans. Arnold Palmer stands for charisma, popularity, and the birth of modern athlete branding. Jack Nicklaus stands for major championships, patience, and total control under pressure. Tiger Woods stands for transformation, fear in his opponents, dominance, and a feeling that his wins were almost decided before they happened. This is not a claim that Erving personally assigned these exact numbers in some private ranking. It is the strongest way to organize the evidence his career and his public comments have left behind, turning it into a clear countdown that reflects what he seems to value most in a champion. It is worth being honest about this framing before we go any further. This countdown is not built from a single interview clip where Erving lists these 5 names in this exact order. It is built from the pattern that emerges when you line up his career, his public comments, his tournament history, and the golfers he has praised most consistently over the years. That approach respects the actual evidence instead of inventing a moment that never happened. It also gives us a clearer, more honest way to understand what Julius Erving genuinely values in a champion, whether that champion plays basketball or golf. With that understood, let us start where every good countdown should, at number 5. Number 5 is Gary Player. Player was 1/3 of golf's big 3, alongside Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, and his record speaks for itself. He won 9 major championships and 24 PGA Tour victories. What made him truly remarkable was how long he stayed at the top. Player won major titles across 5 separate decades, which is an almost unheard-of stretch of dominance in any sport. He built his career on strong conditioning, careful attention to diet, and a mental toughness that let him compete at the highest level long after many of his peers had faded. He also became one of golf's greatest global ambassadors, playing all over the world and helping to grow the sport far beyond his home country. When you look at Player's story next to Erving's, the connections are easy to see. Both men treated their bodies as tools that needed care, not just talent that would last on its own. Both stayed durable through long, demanding careers instead of burning out early. Both became international symbols of their sports, representing something bigger than just their win totals. Both showed that lasting greatness depends on caring for the body and the mind together. Year after year, Player's story is also one of distance and travel long before international sport became as easy and comfortable as it is today. He flew across oceans again and again to compete against the best golfers in the world, often on courses far from home, in conditions completely different from what he grew up practicing on. That willingness to test himself outside familiar surroundings became part of his identity as a champion. He did not wait for the world to come to him. He went out and proved himself everywhere golf was played. That kind of relentless travel and competition, decade after decade, takes a specific kind of endurance, both physical and mental. It is one thing to win once, in front of a home crowd, with everything set up in your favor. It is another thing entirely to keep winning for 50 years across different countries, different generations of rivals, and different eras of the sport itself. Erving respects that kind of endurance because it mirrors the demands of a long professional career in any sport where the body eventually starts to push back against the schedule. And only the mentally toughest competitors keep finding ways to perform. So why does Player land at number 5 rather than higher on this list? His greatness was broad. It was lasting. It was global. But the 4 golfers ahead of him carried an even stronger connection to specific themes that define Erving's own legacy. Themes like precision, cultural transformation, championship dominance, and overwhelming athletic impact. Player also cared deeply about the details other athletes of his era often ignored, from strength training to daily nutrition, treating his body like an instrument that needed constant maintenance rather than something to simply rely on until it wore out. Player represents excellence spread across time and geography, a career built on steady accumulation rather than one single unforgettable era. That is a rare and admirable kind of greatness. But it is a quieter kind, built through decades of consistent effort rather than a handful of unforgettable seasons that reshape how an entire sport is understood. The golfers above him represent something more specific and in some ways more personal to how Erving sees his own place in sports history. That distinction is what pushes him to number 5 rather than any higher. From Player's steady, lifelong excellence, we move to a golfer who built his game from nothing, using instinct, feel, and an unmatched connection with the fans who watched him play. Number 4 is Lee Trevino. Trevino is often described as a self-taught master, and that description fits perfectly. He grew up without the private lessons and country club access that shaped many of his rivals. Yet he still climbed to the very top of professional golf through sheer repetition and instinct. He won 6 major championships and 29 PGA Tour victories. But the numbers only tell part of the story. What set Trevino apart was his precise ball striking and his complete control over the flight of the ball. Skills he developed without the polished coaching that many of his rivals received. He performed brilliantly under pressure, and he did it all while entertaining the crowd with famous banter and a personality that made him instantly likable. Fans did not just admire Trevino, they felt like they knew him. He came from humble beginnings and built an elite career through raw skill and relentless practice rather than any privileged path into the sport. That story lines up closely with Erving's own rise. Erving came from outdoor courts in Roosevelt, New York, not from an easy or well-funded path into professional sports. Trevino also climbed from modest circumstances into one of the most competitive fields in the world. Both men built styles that were entirely their own instead of copying what came before them. Both connected deeply with fans who saw a piece of themselves in these underdog stories. Both combined natural skill with personality in a way that made difficult, technical actions look almost effortless, and both understood that style alone means nothing without real control and real work behind it. Trevino learned much of his game without formal lessons, figuring out shot shapes and swing adjustments through trial, error, and countless hours of practice rather than textbook instruction. That approach gave him a style that looked unlike anyone else on tour. Low, controlled shots that fought through wind instead of fighting against it. Golf commentators often pointed out that his swing broke traditional rules, yet it produced remarkably consistent results under the highest pressure. That same independence shows up in how he handled the media and the public. He joked with galleries between shots, treated fans like old friends rather than distant spectators, and never let the seriousness of major championship golf strip away his personality. Fans loved him partly because he never pretended to be someone he was not. He stayed exactly who he was, whether he was playing in front of a handful of spectators early in his career or in front of massive crowds at a major championship later on. So why does Trevino rank above player in this countdown? His self-made technical identity has a direct emotional link to Erving's own rise from playground basketball to professional stardom, a connection that feels more personal than players' broader global legacy, even though both men earned tremendous respect. Trevino's story is one of proving doubters wrong through skill alone, and that theme runs right through Erving's own career as well. Neither man had the luxury of an easy path lined up in front of them from the start. Both had to earn every bit of respect they eventually received, shot by shot or point by point, until the wider sporting world had no choice but to acknowledge what they had built through sheer persistence and skill. Neither one ever forgot where they came from, and both stayed grounded and accessible to ordinary fans, even after reaching the very top of their profession. Something that not every legendary athlete manages to hold on to once fame and fortune arrive. From Trevino's fan connection and self-made rise, we move to the man who helped build the very idea of what a modern sports superstar could become. Number 3 is Arnold Palmer. Palmer was much more than a great tournament player. He won 7 major championships and 62 PGA Tour victories, numbers that would already secure his place among golf's finest, but his real impact went far beyond the scoreboard. Palmer played with an aggressive, exciting style, and he had a natural charisma that pulled fans in like nothing golf had seen before. His army of devoted supporters became known as Arnie's Army, and they followed him from tournament to tournament with a passion usually reserved for team sports. Palmer's rise happened just as television was becoming a major force in American life, and he helped turn golf into a mainstream television product during the 1950s and 1960s. He became one of the first athletes to build a true commercial brand around his personality, turning charisma into lasting cultural reach. Erving's career followed a similar path in a different sport. Palmer helped make golf bigger through TV exposure and personal appeal. Erving helped popularize the ABA and then the NBA through his own dazzling style of play and his larger-than-life presence on the court. Palmer turned charisma into commercial influence that reshaped how fans experienced golf. Erving's Dr. J persona did something similar for basketball, helping create excitement that reached far beyond people who normally followed the sport closely. Both men helped build a model that later stars would expand even further. Both were loved for their style, but that love was always backed up by real, proven competitive achievement. Both made fans feel personally invested in every shot or every play, as if they had a stake in the outcome. Palmer's rise came at a moment when golf badly needed a star who could reach beyond the country club crowd. Someone who could make ordinary fans care about a sport that many people considered slow or exclusive. He gave the game a face that looked and played like an everyman. Someone who swung hard, took risks, and wore his emotions openly on the course rather than hiding behind a calm, distant expression. That approach connected instantly with working-class fans who had never picked up a golf club in their lives, but still found themselves rooting for him on TV. Companies noticed that connection too, and Palmer became one of the first athletes anywhere to build a genuine commercial empire around his personal brand. Well before that kind of athlete marketing became common practice across professional sports. His example later inspired countless other athletes to understand that a great public personality, paired with real skill, could turn a sports career into something much bigger than trophies and prize money alone. So why does Palmer rank third rather than in the top two? His influence changed how athletes connected with the public, and he helped transform golf into a true television event and a genuine cultural phenomenon. But the two golfers ranked above him hold even stronger claims to pure golfing greatness, built on record-setting championship dominance that Palmer, for all his charm and influence, could not quite match. His 7 major titles are a fine total, but they sit behind the truly historic championship records that define the top 2 names on this list. And that gap in pure winning is what keeps him at third rather than any higher. Yet without Palmer's charisma paving the way, golf might never have grown into the massive television spectacle that later made room for the very stars who eventually surpassed his win total, which is its own kind of lasting contribution to the sport. From Palmer's cultural reach, we move to the man who set the gold standard for winning championships when it mattered most. Number 2 is Jack Nicklaus. If you want to talk about championship excellence in golf, Nicklaus is the benchmark that every other player gets measured against. He won 18 major championships and 73 PGA Tour victories, numbers that remain the gold standard in professional golf. What made Nicklaus so dominant was not just raw talent, it was his technical mastery of the swing, his emotional discipline under pressure, and his sharp, strategic approach to managing a golf course hole by hole. He knew when to attack and when to play safe, and he stayed calm, even when the pressure around him grew intense. He performed at his best on the biggest stages, in the biggest events, again and again, over a career that stretched across decades. That kind of long-term excellence is celebrated alongside the greatest winners in any sport, not just golf. Erving understands this level of consistency personally. He reached the postseason in 16 consecutive professional seasons, a run that required the same kind of discipline and control that defined Nicklaus's championship record. Both men understood just how difficult it is to stay excellent over many years. When opponents change, bodies age, and expectations only grow heavier with every passing season. Both performed with enormous pressure placed on them by fans, media, and their own standards. Both valued composure over panic, choosing calm, measured decisions over emotional reactions in the biggest moments. Both became standards that later athletes in their sports would be measured against for decades to come. Nicklaus holds the strongest traditional statistical case of anyone on this list, and that case should not be diminished just to make room for the golfer at number 1. Nicklaus also had a rare gift for rising to the occasion at exactly the moments when other players tightened up and lost their nerve. Major championships are famous for exposing weaknesses in a golfer's game, whether that weakness is technical or mental, and Nicklaus seemed to find another level of focus precisely when the stakes were highest. He planned his way around a course like an engineer, thinking several shots ahead instead of simply reacting to whatever situation he found himself in. That strategic patience meant he rarely beat himself with careless mistakes, forcing his opponents to earn every stroke they took away from him. Over a career that spanned more than 2 decades at the top level, he kept adjusting his game as his body changed and as new, younger competitors emerged to challenge him. Very few athletes in any sport manage to remain dominant across that many years, through that many generations of rivals, without a decline that eventually pushes them aside. The choice between Nicklaus and the man ranked above him is a genuinely close debate, one that weighs total championship achievement against peak dominance, athletic transformation, psychological fear, and lasting cultural impact. It is a real argument, not a simple formality. Some observers point to Nicklaus's total number of major victories as the single clearest measure of greatness that exists in golf, arguing that no amount of style or highlight reel excitement should outweigh 18 championship wins earned across a career built on discipline rather than drama. Others argue that raw totals only tell part of the story, and that the way a golfer changes the sport around them matters just as much as any list of trophies. There is no clean way to settle this argument with numbers alone, and honest golf fans have debated it for years without ever reaching a final answer. Both sides of that argument deserve respect, and neither position is unreasonable. Erving's own career, shaped by both statistical dominance and stylistic transformation, gives him a unique appreciation for exactly this kind of debate. Since his own legacy also blends hard numbers with a change in how the game itself was played and watched. He scored enough points and won enough championships to satisfy anyone who values raw statistics, yet he is remembered just as much, if not more, for how he made the game look, which is exactly the kind of dual legacy that makes the Nicklaus versus Woods debate so meaningful to him personally. Yet one golfer changed not only the record book, but the way athletes saw golf itself. And that difference is what separates the final two names on this list. Number 1 is Tiger Woods, and in this story, he is the golfer who most closely mirrors Julius Erving's own impact on his sport. Woods won 15 major championships and 82 PGA Tour victories, numbers that already place him among the greatest golfers who ever lived. But it was not just his win total that set him apart. It was his exceptional athleticism, his remarkable clubhead speed, and a level of mental dominance that seemed to break the will of the players around him. His shot-making ability let him escape situations that should have ended his chances, and during his prime, there was a genuine feeling of inevitability whenever he took the lead. Opponents reacted to his mere presence on a leaderboard, sometimes making mistakes simply because they knew he was closing in. Woods brought a physical revolution to a sport that had for generations valued smooth, controlled swings over raw power and speed. He changed how the game was played, how it was trained for, and how it was watched by millions of fans around the world. The connection to Erving here is direct and powerful. Erving helped move basketball above the rim, turning it into an aerial, athletic spectacle. Woods brought a completely new athletic standard to golf, one built on power, precision, and intimidation all at once. Both men changed what younger athletes believed was possible in their sport. Both became cultural symbols that reached far beyond the boundaries of their games, influencing fashion, training methods, and public attention in ways their sports had never experienced before. Both created excitement before the action even began, simply because of who they were. Both made rivals feel real pressure just from their presence, whether that meant a defender bracing for a dunk or a competitor watching Woods stalk a leaderboard. Both combined pure skill with physical power in a way that felt almost unfair to everyone else on the field. Both stand as proof that a single athlete can change an entire sport's identity. For anyone searching for the golfer who most closely fits the words, "He was my GOAT," Tiger is the strongest answer in this story. Woods also changed how young athletes trained for golf entirely. Before his rise, many golfers treated fitness as an afterthought, something separate from the actual skill of hitting a ball well. Woods trained like an elite athlete from another sport entirely, building explosive strength and speed that let him hit the ball farther than golfers who relied purely on technique. That shift forced an entire generation of competitors to rebuild their own training routines just to keep pace with him, reshaping the sport's culture from the inside out. His rise also brought new fans to golf who had never cared about the sport before. People who tuned in specifically because of the drama and intensity he brought to every tournament, not simply out of loyalty to the game itself. Broadcast ratings climbed whenever he was in contention, and tournament organizers structured entire schedules around his presence, understanding that his participation alone could transform a modest event into a major TV draw. That level of individual influence over an entire sport's business and popularity is extremely rare, and it stands as one of the clearest parallels to what Erving once did for professional basketball, back when his own aerial style pulled in fans who had never paid attention to the ABA or the NBA before he arrived. So why does Woods take the top spot in this narrative, even though Nicklaus holds more major championships? This ranking is built around Erving's apparent idea of greatness, not simply a count of major titles. Erving values innovation, fear created in opponents, athletic change, cultural impact, and total dominance. And Woods delivers all of those qualities at the highest possible level. Tiger's effect on golf most closely resembles Erving's own effect on basketball decades earlier. He inspired athletes from other sports entirely to take golf seriously as a competitive pursuit. His physical and mental presence made winning feel expected, almost assumed, long before a tournament ever finished. It is worth remembering that this kind of aura cannot be manufactured through marketing or reputation alone. It has to be earned, tournament after tournament, until rivals themselves begin to believe the outcome is settled before the final round even starts. That is a psychological weapon every bit as powerful as any physical skill, and very few athletes in the history of any sport have ever wielded it as effectively as Woods did during his prime. Nicklaus built his case across decades of steady, patient dominance, while Woods built his case through a shorter, more explosive stretch of near-total control over the sport. And it is that explosive, transformative peak that resonates most strongly with the story we are telling about Erving's own career. Erving's own peak years reshaped basketball forever in a way that a longer, steadier career could not have matched in the same explosive fashion. And that is precisely the quality he seems to recognize and respect most clearly in Woods. That is why, in this reconstruction of Julius Erving's view of greatness, Tiger Woods stands at number 1. Let us bring these 5 traits together one final time. Gary Player represents longevity, staying at the top across 5 decades. Lee Trevino represents self-made precision, built from nothing but skill and practice. Arnold Palmer represents connection and cultural reach, turning charisma into a global brand. Jack Nicklaus represents the championship standard, the number every great golfer still measures themselves against. Tiger Woods represents transformation and dominance, the same kind of era-defining impact that Erving once brought to basketball. Now return to Julius Erving himself. His golf legacy is not a footnote to his basketball career. It includes course ownership, tournament hosting, charity work, youth support, encouragement of minority participation, international appearances, and friendships built across many different sports. It includes a deep respect for the precision required to succeed in professional golf, a respect earned through decades of actually playing the game, not just watching it from a distance. Julius Erving did not simply retire from one sport and stumble into another. He carried the same discipline, the same curiosity, and the same competitive standards from the basketball court onto the golf course. His view of these 5 golfers reflects the very traits that defined his own career: precision, longevity, dominance, charisma, and the ability to change a sport from the inside. It would have been easy for a basketball legend of his stature to treat golf as nothing more than a relaxing hobby for retirement, something to fill quiet afternoons away from the spotlight. Instead, Erving approached it with the same seriousness he once brought to every game he played professionally, studying its champions, learning its history, and eventually becoming part of its story himself through ownership, charity, and advocacy. Great athletes can recognize greatness in forms very different from their own, and Erving is proof of exactly that. He did not leave basketball behind when he found golf. He carried its lessons with him, and he used them to understand a completely different game at a completely different level. Dr. J once changed the way basketball could be played, and through golf, he showed that true greatness can be recognized on any field, court, or fairway, no matter which sport first taught him what that greatness truly looks like.